Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
I wore my pod shirt and everything. There's my background. I'll just stand like this the whole time. Um, so yeah, we have to officially start it.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Q&A for Pod Anniversary.
hey,
Happy
Hi.
anniversary.
Yeah. So I'm here with Britt and Tanya and Kim and Josephine. They sent out a thing for people to ask questions, and over 700 questions came through. So of course we were like, is anybody going to ask anything? And then there was so many.
Oh,
And I knew how important this record was to people, but it was really emphasized that this record landed hard with people's timelines and their lives and in their music collections and just in everything. People are very serious about wanting to know some of these things. Um, so this first question, I didn't care what she asked. Her name was so cool. Luckily, she asked a good question. So the first question is from Joanna Madeira Camaro. And it's a good opener. She says, why pod? Why is it called pod? So I don't know
from a
why.
painting, right? Isn't it from a painting that you saw, Kim, or a piece of art that you saw? And is that
Well, this
right?
is going to be good. We've each got a different origin story of what Kim.
The name? Can you,
Yeah, so let's everybody answer and
okay.
see what we get. So Britt, why is the record called Pod?
I would just have to guess based on the artwork that Vaughn created. I don't know.
Okay. All right, Tanya, what's your guess? Or what do you know?
I kind of vaguely remember that it was from a paint, like inspired by a painting Kim saw, or like a something maybe a sculpture, some piece of art that Kim saw. But I could.
Okay. What do you think, Josephine?
Well, first of all, when Kim first told me that that was going to be the name of the record, there was there's a discrepancy between the way she says pod and the way I say pod. It's a very say it, Kim. You say it.
Pod.
Right. It's almost like it has two syllables when she says it.
Really?
Whereas when I say it, it's kind of over and done with almost straight away. And I'm kind of, that's a really pod. That's kind of a word, you know. But anyways, the explanation that she gave me was something to do with, is it Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
That's a great movie. Mhm.
The idea was that it was like this festering thing, ripe thing about to burst and create havoc. That's the reference that I remember when you first said that that was going to be the title. Was that it was something to do with science fiction movie?
Okay, Cam.
I
We
like
got
that one.
three different answers. Do you know what you think?
That's a good one. I had
Multiple choice.
I don't know why it seemed okay. Shame, self-disgust, um, self-loathing, just but ugliness, I think it's I was thinking of. And the idea that that could be, busting and creating havoc. I love that, the sci-fi aspect of it. I don't know if I thought that. I could imagine I could think that, but because I love horror and sci-fi. So, but that was it. And then I saw that, I think Vaughn used the idea that it would be pod and then made a visualization of it. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
And he asked for our hair. He
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
swatches of our hair. We had to
Yeah.
send him our hair. He put that on the thing. which actually goes more to the invasion of the body snatchers, the biological material in the pot collection scientifically.
That's really good. This question, very good answers. I love that none of them matched. This next one is from Roxy 333BR3. And this is for everybody. I think you'll each have an answer for this. She says, which
only in threes?
We thought about, we tried to tie this together and it ended up corny. Yeah, we were going to give 3 prizes for 3 blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, I'm going to start with Joe. Since she has a lot to say this morning. Which song gave you the most grief when recording or playing it live? Joe?
Oh, well, playing live, definitely O gives most grief. Okay, who's responsible for that?
Is that Kyle? Did he just bail? Oh my God, it was Kyle. Maybe management's trying to get a hold of them. What was the question, Josephine?
It was which
song, either recording it or playing it live or both, gave you the most grief? Now, playing live, definitely it's O, because there are 2 spots in that where there's complete silence, and then there's like a glissando on the violin that brings everybody back in, and it's extremely tortuous. Know where the downbeat is going to be. So definitely live. That's one for me. Recording, I can't remember. I can't remember there being anyone in particular being difficult. I'll wait to hear what everybody else says, and then I'll jump in on that.
What do you think, Britt? Did you have some trouble with one, or live, or even in the studio?
Man, I mean, I just, it's always kind of nerve-wracking to just be recording, and I don't remember anything too in particular, but maybe yeah, maybe Glorious. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. How about you, Tanya?
Well, I only played a handful of shows live. I was never on like a proper tour, but I would say I'm gonna guess it would be Iris for some reason. I remember, and it's for a little tiny nerdy reason, which is that I wanted that high to be really metallic and grating. So I do remember that I asked to do that a few times in the studio to get it to be as annoying as I wanted it to be.
What about you, Joe? Or Joe already talked. How about you, Kim?
I don't remember anyone in particular in recording.
I probably would have had, I think, Joe, because I wanted it to be one of those forward-leaning ones, like with the like the 8th note count, sort of like going this way. So and it like that, But we've got this huge motherfucking huge kick drum, like laying bombs in the middle of the song. So it was hard to get the feeling of, which I'm so glad nowadays, because a lot of times when I do, that little, cheerleader vibe of, propelling forward that I love. I don't know why, because I think I like to bounce up and down or something. So it's nice that it didn't, we had that big kick drum in the middle of everything.
Yeah, I agree.
That's cool.
Did it like give it like a tension, or do you think it like worked that way, or?
I think, no, it destroyed the what I was trying to do.
Oh shoot.
But it made something better.
That's right.
Yeah, I think so too.
Made
Yeah.
something more distinctive and better.
And we kind of like, in a very constructive way, came up against Albini a few times on subjects like this of just stripping away harmonies and maybe making something heavier. And at the time, now I say this all the time, but he was right about 90% of.
It's so annoying how often he's right.
I know.
And it is heavier. And one of the things that I've actually thought sometimes when I'm having listened to the songs and learning them, something like that, I just like Steve just orchestrated this whole thing with balancing sounds and stuff. I was just happy to be able to get the guitar tuned, and like we're going through the songs we basically just learned. So I was just happy to get through them, and he is, is conduct like the heaviness and the lightness and how everything, the balancing of everything is just amazing, let alone the recording and capturing the sound.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would argue, though, just quickly on the point that I think that your pushback, Kim, was also really important to keep things. You were very much a part of that balance as well.
Really?
Yeah.
One time I asked him, can I hear that again? Wait a minute. I don't know what it was, but he said to me, I can't play it again. I can't play it again. What? Can you play it again? Obviously he was annoyed because I was thinking about something too hard, which this is so Steve. And then I said, what do you mean you can't play it? Play it. I can't play it. When I play tape, when you play tape, shreds of the magnetic material flake off and you ruin the tape in playback. So that's why we weren't going to listen to that part again, for fear of destroy. It's fine. Such a shithead.
Yeah, sounds like just a reason he didn't have to rewind
I was
anything.
gonna say, yeah.
All right, we got a bunch of questions. Let's go. That was great. You guys stop me. If I move on to the next question and you still want to talk, just stop me. This next question is from Harper Grohl. And she says, when you went into the studio, were you set with all your ideas, your lyrics, your guitar parts, your bass parts? Were those all set and done? Or did you go in not knowing everything about what was going to happen?
That was pretty significant pre-production that we did. So
Yeah.
I feel like it was pretty clear what was, obviously things got tweaked, but.
I had no idea what was going on.
We
had one day, right? But we worked in Josephine's house.
Yeah, we did.
Right.
And then we also we were in also a rented space for a few days, as well as Joe's house.
London.
Basically what happened was somebody else, I hope I'm not preempting Kyle reading out someone's question, but somebody asked why did we record in the UK? And my memory of it was that we recorded in the UK because of Tanya. Is that correct? Because Kim and Tanya were both having time off, and Tanya was spending time in London with her then English boyfriend. So she was in the UK.
Howard, right?
And that's right, Howard.
Yeah, is it because
isn't that why we did it in the UK? Because Tanya was going to be in the UK, and because obviously I was in the UK.
It makes sense, though. Yeah.
I think that's my memory of why we did it.
And also makes me sound like a huge pain in the ass.
Embrace it, Tanya.
I'm very thankful.
So basically, when
whatever
you told me that we were going to record in the UK, I then suggested that we rehearse at my house because there was plenty of room at my house to set all the gear up, and there was plenty of room for people to stay, because my house has 38 rooms and
Wow.
13 bedrooms.
Wow.
Sadly, Tanya didn't come because she was in London with her boyfriend.
I came for rehearsals,
No,
clearly.
you didn't. You didn't come to Biggleswade. You came. We then rehearsed in London with you.
What
So
was
Wow.
Kim and
doing?
Britt
Oh, did
and
I have? It
I
could not have
rehearsed.
been hanging out with the
You
boyfriend.
just swan about,
No,
Tanya.
I wonder if there was like Muse's stuff going on.
Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
man.
I remember I would wake up and Josephine would bring me a Swiss mocha in bed every
Oh,
day.
yeah.
And the
Yeah.
little, remember the can that I made the Swiss mocha from the International Foods. Remember that time? Having that, my little cup of coffee that I brought over from the States.
Yeah.
I remember that
She'd
stuff.
make
That
me a
was a
coffee.
staple. That was a staple. That international cafe.
Man, I was gonna say that it seemed like we were pretty much just like an old school rock band going in the studio. Like we were pretty much playing everything live, you know.
Mhm.
That's right.
Pretty simple, you know.
Yeah, it was.
Well, to jump off of what Josephine said, there was a question, and it's more specific. From Ryan Scowler says, to all of the band, uh, why the choice to record in my hometown of Edinburgh versus say Glasgow or London or something?
Uh-huh.
I know the answer.
Yeah, Joe.
I know
Go
the answer.
Josephine.
Joe's
Because
obviously the memory keeper.
it's because Ivo Watts Russell, the head of 4AD, who was giving us the money to make this record, he had a good friend who lived in Edinburgh and had a 24-track recording studio in his house.
Mm.
And so it was Ivo's suggestion that we do it there because it was like a residential studio.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was Ivo's suggestion because it was a friend of his. I can't remember the guy's name. Do you remember?
Yeah, who's
John. John was his first name.
Right.
Oh, what was the name of the studio?
Palladium?
Sorry, what is it?
Palladium.
Palladium.
Yeah.
Pixies had been there one time before,
That's
doing the
that.
I'd met them before, doing the slow version of Where Is My Mind, the UK surf version, and some other B-side thing that
Right.
we were
Yeah.
doing
Oh, well, there you are then.
very briefly.
Yeah.
Was it Wave of Mutilation or where?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Did I just say it? Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slow version of that. Well, Harper still wants to know if you went in with all your parts written or did you do some writing in the studio?
Metal Man was basically entirely written in the studio, I mean, that part, right?
Yeah. Well, I had a riff and you had some words.
Oh, I don't remember. Thanks for the riff, Joe.
Basically, that we went in with I had a guitar riff and Kim had words that she wanted to turn into a song, and we put the two things together. But other than that, the songs were already written and the parts were already written. There wasn't any like, improvising or working things out or changing ideas. I think the ideas were pretty much set.
Mm-hmm.
The words for open, I woke up and we woke up in the morning at Josephine's house, and Britt had shared a dream he had. It was a weird dream, and while he was saying the dream, I was jotting it down. Wasn't I writing down your dream?
Really?
And that
Oh,
becomes
wow.
the lyrics for open.
Yeah. And that was in Biggleswade, I think.
Yes,
Right?
it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's one of my favorite words. In a kitchen in Kentucky, she feels like Peter Pan. I loved it.
A lot of people asked about the lyrics for that song, so it's good that it came right out of Britt's head. Of course it did. I thought
Thanks for the lyrics, Britt.
Molly
Theft
Wing.
is the highest form of flattery.
Molly Wing says, I was a young violinist at the time and so inspired to hear violin on the record. How did that come to be? How did that come to be?
Well, do you want to go, Kim?
Go ahead, you go.
I was just going to say that the very sort of first arrangement constellation of the Breeders was sort of half of Ed's Redeeming Qualities, or two members from Ed's, Ray and Carrie, played when we were very first kind of pre-recording anything.
Rehearsals of to jam.
Public rehearsals, basically.
Yeah.
So I think that's when we was Carrie. Oh, she came later in the recording process, but she was always going to come, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Mad Dog Punks would like to know, and this is, I think, with all the chatter in between songs and things on there. Does Britt have any highlights that he said between takes to wind up Josephine?
I don't remember anything that's not on the record.
Well, there was a little follow-up. I guess when there's a song fading out, you can hear Britt muttering something. Do you have any knowledge on that? I guess we can just skip that. Nobody knows. That's the answer.
And I don't think the even though he is captured winding Josephine up a little, I don't think his modus operandi was to go there and just start fucking, that's not, it was just, but Steve did have a habit of leaving the tape recording open in between songs. So if Britt had said anything remotely corrosive, it would probably be on the record.
Gotcha.
So I think that was about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It makes me wonder what Steve Albini's sessions he was used to being like. Do people like? It makes me wonder, was he trying to capture people behaving badly? Because he did that with the Pixies too, just keeping it open. Like, and what are you doing? Like, we're Al Cooper,
Right.
And one good thing deserves another.
Yeah. No, this is why any 2-inch reel of tape fills me with anxiety. Just the sight of.
I've never been in a band like played it wrong again, Britt.
Yeah.
More of a football coach. Okay. Art historian 6. This better be a classy question. Was there I'm imagining English too. Was there a strong desire to separate yourselves from previous bands many of you were in before the Breeders? And as women, were you made to feel there was more to prove? Anybody?
I feel like I don't think there was that kind of predetermination going in, not for me anyway. I mean, I can't speak for everybody else, but I feel like we were just writing songs and recording them, playing music together. I think the conflicts would have been more about scheduling than about, what we were trying to prove.
Yeah. What do you think, Joe?
I mean, the latter part of that question is really irrelevant to us. The whole as women thing. I don't think any of us were thinking about that. The first part of the question, I think I've thought about this a lot, and I actually think that one of the things that is so interesting about this record, where have I written this down? One of the things that's so interesting about this record is that Kim was very open and very open and collaborative. She wasn't telling anybody how to play. She wasn't saying, you know what I mean? It was like
For the last time.
I feel like we each came to the rehearsal session and then the recording session with our chops, and then we, you know, and then the rehearsals and the recording were kind of a conduit for our individual chops, making something that was larger than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, thank God. Right.
It was
Because I could see me wanting again. Why is the kick drum so big? We need things snappy, poppy. Come on.
It's awesome.
Thank gosh.
I felt like it was very hands off in a way that was really quite unique.
Yeah, and I
don't know that I've ever had an experience quite like that before, where it literally was like, here are 4 individuals coming together with their own individual way of playing, and we're just going to let it roll.
Right.
It wasn't. It wasn't. There was nothing controlling about it. You know what I mean? I certainly felt that Kim was very open to suggestions and ideas in the service of the songs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There was a real ethos of, do we need that?
Yeah,
Do we need that? Should we cut that out?
yeah.
It was very, it was all about the songs. It was all about making the songs as good as they could be.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, and that's so cool that you felt that way and everything you said. Like, um, yeah, I would add that like, um, for me, like, I guess maybe my favorite thing about it was just coming together for the songs. Like, you know, I didn't feel so much that I was bringing like certain, you know, chops to the process as much as just like playing to
Yeah.
the song, you know, and I feel like I love doing that, you know. And I feel like at the same time that our sort of ideas were almost more of the chops where we would be like, well, yeah, but maybe, you know, I hear it more this way, and then that just became a sort of like process of like removal or, you know, cutting out. It seems like things were just sort of ended up being kind of stripped down to their, you know, most essential elements or something.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tanya?
I've said this, just very quickly, like I say this in interviews a lot when people are asking about working with Kim, and um, I to Josephine and Britt's points, she's so collaborative in spirit, but she also combines that with like a real vision of what she wants to hear at the end. Like she has it in her head, a really strong blueprint of what she wants to hear at the end of it, and it's so hard to balance those two things, and she absolutely succeeds in doing that, and it's
and with
you know, with that
Pod I totally
a
failed.
lot.
Failed in getting my vision with Pod. This the huge kick drum with my little scrawny acoustic guitar that I of course wanted to sound like Sabbath, with Josephine's rinky-dink little sort of stringy little Rickenbacker bass. I've never been in a room with somebody who has a bass sound like that. Along a Rickenbacker stringy bass, along with Britt's huge kick drum. I'm like, what is happening?
Man.
You know, I know it sounds so great. I would have never thrown these elements together. They're so weird. Again,
Well,
Steve Albini.
Yeah, it is so great too, though. Josephine's right, just how much of a spirit of openness and collaboration there was. I mean, it's just I really give a lot of credit and thanks to you and for that.
What a great answer. All right. Our next question comes from Chili Disco. Shout out to Chili. Uh, this is very song specific. There is a raw beauty on Pod. My favorite song is possibly Doe. Could you guys explain a bit about the genesis of the song Doe?
I brought it in, but I don't know exactly how far done it was or anything. Uh, but I think we did touch on the fact that, you know, I was wanting it to be this raving thing, and I don't know. The whole thing, the whole record is just like, I don't know. It just turned out like that. Does anybody have any?
There's a running theme of experimental.
Yeah, that was one that was pretty heavily stripped down to its parts. I remember that because we did have like layers and vocal ideas, and he sort of suggested of pulling back on guitars, pulling back on vocals. That was one that had some harmonies in there which were pulled, right? Yeah.
I'm learning as you're speaking.
Was that one that you guys kind of had mostly written? Like I remember there was sometimes it was kind of like, this is how the song goes, and you might have even had a beat in mind on some songs.
I think that might have been something I brought in, most-ish. Like it might have even, had lyrics and all sorts of stuff. What else you got, Kyle?
Well, I knew that Steve would be brought up a bunch of times, so I didn't know whether to pull a Steve question, but I liked this one from Jack Steer Best is his name. Could each person talk about their personal highlight of Albini's engineering for this record, or like a Steve experience during the creation of the record?
I have one that's like not related to really the recording.
Go for it, man.
I mean, I got our per diems for the week or something once, and just promptly wanted to go to the liquor store and spend it all on liquor. And I asked Steve to go with me, and he helped me carry I guess like 2 boxes of liquor back to the store.
Are you saying beer? Is it
probably beer? Yeah.
Okay.
But I just remember him in his black wool overcoat, carrying this kind of fallen apart box of beer, for me, I almost feel kind of bad about it, but he was totally just, there for me. So
That's great. What about you, Joe? You have any Steve memory from that time?
I do. The thing in Hellbound, the bit in the middle where it's just the bass guitar. I'm not going to say bass solo because it's really not a bass solo, but it is the bass. It's the bass. It used to be twice as long, that part in the middle, and that we recorded it being twice as long. And at some point, Kim was like, "That's really too long. It's like a dead spot. We need to get rid of half of it." And so Steve cut that section out from the tape with a razor blade, and which it was probably about 4 feet long, I think, whatever those bars of bass guitar were. And then he cut that piece into 2, and then he pulled on the ends of it and stretched it, which kind of caused it to all kind of shrink up on itself. And then he handed it to me and he said, "Here you are, it's a pair of shoelaces." You can use these as shoelaces.
I feel like this is also relative to Joe and Britt. The end of when I was a painter, just letting that go and go and go. That was his prompting. Is just keep doing it, keep going. And that's one of my favorite parts of the album is that ending. And that was because I remember him doing this. You're like, yeah, that's it.
What about you, Kim?
Um, the haggis that he, they always they asked this last time. They mentioned that we could make haggis because they cooked. The husband and wife cooked for the band, and they had offered they can make you the traditional haggis meal. And of course, I was like, no, thank you, really. And Steve was like, that would be great, thank you. Traditional haggis cooked for the family, and he sat there and he just loved it.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember that he told me and Joe, that we were being rude for turning it down because we and that we should make an exception for the hosts.
That's a great shout out. There were more than one haggis question in this thread.
Loved it. Did you eat any, Britt? I did not.
Yeah, I
You did?
was my first and only haggis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to do it.
Yeah.
Staying with the Brit thing, although you don't have to be the one to answer. Cuddle Sphere asks, I love these names. How did Britt Walford end up in the Breeders, and why did he depart?
Well, I met Kim. The way I understand it is Kim told Steve about the band and that she was looking for a drummer, and he suggested me. And then I went and met you, Kim, at I think you guys were recording. Was it Surfer Rosa, or maybe it was Doolittle?
Was it in Chicago?
Yeah.
It was. I think it was a Rubicon. I think it was from Elektra. They were doing a box set called Crossing the Rubicon, and it was older Elektra artists being covered by newer Elektra artists, and we were doing Born in Chicago from that blues band. I forgot the name of them, and I think we were in his studio then in Chicago. You must have come by there.
Okay. Yeah.
But maybe that's not true.
I remember, I mean, it was definitely you guys. I met all of you guys. And
Did you meet the Pixies guys?
Yeah, the Pixies, yeah.
In Chicago, that would have been the only time we did it. Yeah.
Cool.
How did that meeting go? When, like, Kim, how did you immediately say he's the guy, or what
For
was your
decades,
thinking?
for decades, I've been, well, not when I was drinking, I didn't think about this, but when I quit drinking, it eventually occurred to me, I had no idea how I met Britt, and I had no idea how he got in the band. None.
I think we have a theme running through this.
I think it was. I remember that it was Steve heavily suggesting.
Oh yeah, now I know this.
Yeah. Thankfully.
Well, I have another question that you won't either won't remember or won't want to answer, but I want to ask it anyway. Gracie Murphy says, Kim, what does soup of magpies in a pottery bowl mean or represent in Fortunately Gone? Soup of magpies in a pottery bowl. Does that mean anything to you?
I need to hear it in context.
That's a good enough answer.
I don't know if I want to. Yeah, good. Okay, that's good.
Alex House has a really good question. It's about, a lot of people were asking questions about these demos that are out on YouTube and available sort of in a shitty version. And a lot of people want you guys to release them, etc. But Alex says a version of I Just Want to Get Along from the Pod Sessions was released on the Gigantic 2 compilation put out by Melody Maker. Were there any other songs that didn't make the cut for Pod that were recorded during these sessions?
A version of what?
I Just Want to Get Along.
Oh, right.
So people are really curious if there's like hidden songs, if there's anything that got pulled or cut or.
No, I don't think so. That was it.
No, I had no idea. I Just Want to Get Along was on that session.
Yeah, they put it out as a flexi disc for a did at the time for a promotional thing. Yeah, I think something like that. But then it was never saw the light of day again.
Great. So all these people are just going to be happy with the songs on the record, and that's what you get.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now this question from Jeremy Gilfie.
Although the snub TV little TV show that we did, that was actually recorded at Palladium with Steve Albini at the Pod Sessions. So that is an alternate version of said song. So
yeah,
that's true. And
yeah,
God, that clip, I'm speaking for myself, but I love how it sounds, how it's played, everything about that, the energy of it. It's one of the best little live recordings I've ever heard. It's amazing.
What is Steve?
Now this question was asked in different forms dozens and dozens of times. Jeremy Gelfie says, tell us about the decision to cover Happiness Is a Warm Gun and how did that come about? And the other people said, were there any other covers that were in the running, etc. But people want to hear about how that happened and why you did it and how you did it.
I think Ivo suggested it, didn't he? Or am I misremembering?
I love that song. Did he say do a Beatles song? And I was like, I like this one.
I don't know. I can't remember. But for some reason, I feel like we had been talking about doing a cover and maybe it was you, and I don't know. For my murky memory is bringing him into the equation on this for some reason.
I think it was Ivo's suggestion, wasn't it? Ivo suggested it. My understanding, it was his idea. He thought it would be a cool song for us to do.
Okay. Well, a lot of the people put context in their questions, and they can, whether it's fans of covers in general or Beatles or just you guys, people are saying that, so many Beatles song covers are just throwaways and that this one stands out to people, to the way it was arranged, the way it was done, just so different. And it's Beatles fans' favorite, a lot of Beatles fans' favorite Beatles cover, and everybody just loves that version of the song. So the people were really talking a lot about that.
I remember Kim really having a lot of direction on that one, a lot of ideas for how to do it and stuff that really seemed like they panned out,
Yeah.
Cutting that entire thing.
I don't remember that.
The parts are so weird.
There was a big a Zippo lighter that Steve's lights at the beginning of the song. Do you guys remember that? Mm-hmm. When Tanya's singing, there's a sound of a lighter getting flicked. That's Albini.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Steve Kisco asks, this is a question for Kim and Britt. Is it true that after Albini introduced you two, you spent a year working out the drum arrangements for the songs? What was that process like, and how has the drum writing process changed for Kim in the last 3+ decades?
You don't write parts for Britt.
So is that a lie? Is that not true that you spent a year working out drum arrangements?
No.
Okay, that's not true.
I have done that before, but not with Britt.
Yeah, Britt kind of brings what Britt brings, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He's very talented.
Very talented indeed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I know you do write drum parts from time to time.
Yeah, I do.
Mike Gillen asked a question to Kim. There is a kind of a push-pull in pod, intimacy and distortion, innocence versus danger. Did you ever feel like you were exorcising something in the sessions or inviting something in? I thought this question would make you think.
That's a very witchy question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ah. Somebody else answer it.
Can we?
I don't know if y'all can answer it.
Read the first part again.
Well, the the person says there's a push-pull in the pod, like intimacy versus distortion, and innocence versus danger. He wants to know if you felt like you were exercising something, exorcising something in those sessions, or inviting something in, which is interesting.
I can give an answer to this.
Go ahead, Joe.
Because a number of people, I read through a bunch of the questions that people had submitted, and quite a few people talked about how there is a special feeling to this record. It's kind of an unusual. There is an unusual kind of tension to it, as the questioner mentioned, that a kind of push-pull thing going on, and I think it's to do with the fact that we were essentially recording these things live. So, well, there were three things. We were recording live to tape. Second of all, we knew that Steve wouldn't let us do any overdubs. Third of all, we were on a really tight schedule. We only had 2 weeks to make the whole record. So I think the result of that, there is a kind of attention to it, but there's also an attention to it, because we really were having to pay attention to what we were doing and play together in a way that you don't often have to do. I mean, obviously playing live, that's kind of what you're doing, but playing live, you play and it's gone. Whereas we're making a record is a very different thing. It's like you're making an artifact, and you want to, do the best that you can do. But I do think that kind of the tension that's there is partly a result of those aspects of the recording of it. Mm-hmm. And also because we were not used to playing with each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said before, it was like 4 individual musicians with their own individual style coming together, and we were not used to playing with each other. So I think that contributed to it as well.
Yeah, there is that feel. It is a really special, that sort of feeling that the wheels might fall off.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. I love to feel that and hear that. So, there is a bit of that on pod.
Definitely.
That's a great answer.
For sure there is. And dare I say, most of the shit Kim works on feels like that.
Not like this.
I'm just gonna blow by this. See, a lot of people put forth the idea and wondered what would happen, or what, some people say, would you do this? And some people say, what do you think would happen if this happened? If you 4 got together today, what do you think would come out of it? And also, would you like for that to happen someday? And also, what do you think would happen if you 4 got in the room just like you did back then? What do you think would come out of it today?
But Albini's not here, so I don't know if
I know
we would even get recorded right.
That's true.
And if we actually went to Albini and said, we're getting the band back together, Steve, he'd probably say, you don't want to do that. maybe I don't know. Maybe you would think, super, I've got this weekend scheduled. Let's do an album.
Yeah. Okay.
Answerable question, unless it were,
It's true. This question would have been better 2 years ago, wouldn't it? Yeah. Somebody, okay, Kelly Marie Peterson says, where did the lyrics from Iris come from? When I was young, my mother told me it was about menstruation, but I feel it might be about something else. Can you shed some light?
I could, but I don't want to.
That's perfect.
Okay. Do you guys talk about lyrics? Do you guys, when you guys are asked specific lyrics? Tanya, do you talk about your lyrics when people ask about lyrics?
I do, but I also sometimes answer that I don't want to answer.
I think it's best not to know. Like, for example, when I remember having a conversation with Kim, we were talking about the lyrics to Irish, and I said that one of my favorite, oh shit, I'm not going to be able to remember it now. One of my favorite lines was, what's the line about tea? We were tired from the tea. We were tired from the tea.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it's such a great line. I really, being English and a tea drinker, I was really into the fact that, here's this great song talking about tea. And she paused and she said, it was mushroom tea.
So Kim doesn't want to answer what that's about. To everybody in the room, from Ryan Scular, who's probably from Edinburgh, he says to all the band, do you have any memories of staying in Edinburgh and what happened as it regards to the city while recording Pod? Let's start with, go ahead. Go ahead, Kim. This is a story about you two. Go ahead.
Do you want to tell your story? You know what, Britt? I think I should tell it, only because I don't think you were in any position to tell it. It was the cutest thing. What were you, 18 then? Did you turn 18 or were you 19?
19, I think he was.
Yeah,
you were 19? So, first time overseas, he's 19. And there's a little pub down the street.
Yes, this wasn't in Edinburgh. Was it?
Yes.
No. Yeah.
Well, it was outside. It was in Stratton. Stratton was the name of the village.
Right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Stratton. Is that the name of the pub?
The Stratton Inn, yeah.
Stratton Inn, down from Palladium. And, they were nice fellas, but you can imagine the Edinburgh outside of town sort of pub frequenters there. But they were very nice to the 19-year-old Britt. And he came back one day after getting sauced down there. And he rang the doorbell. He came in late. And he had black ash all over his face. And he was really, really 3 sheets to the wind. Is that what it is? Or a couple of sheets? Anyway. So he was really drunk. And he showed up at the door with black ash all over his face. And the mom and, the people who owned the studio burst out laughing. And they told us that that's what happens. If you fall asleep while you're in Stratton, if you fall asleep, maybe anywhere in Edinburgh, I don't know, at the pubs there, they will ash your face with fireplace soot.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was our last night there, and I'd become friends with like everybody in the pub.
I do. They loved you. You just were there. We would walk in, and people would just be like, "Britt."
Oh man!
And not the regulars, the owners, the tenders. Everyone was so psyched to see him. It was
they were so incredible. And I think they slipped me something. I mean, because I've never had an experience like that where my memory just, 1 or 2 beers into the night, it's just gone.
I know, we were worried about, it was
I really do think they did. And then I think they carried me to the front door.
They did.
So yeah, they were amazing.
It could have slipped something in the haggis. You never know.
Yeah.
It was the haggis.
It was the haggis. We have a couple extra questions from our friend Mike Montgomery, and he says, I have heard
The
many.
Candyland. So he
Yeah,
records a bunch of Breeder stuff.
he's our friend that owns Candyland
You know him,
studio.
Britt. Yeah,
Yeah, Britt's recorded there.
in Kentucky.
So Mike, who you know, Britt, says, I have heard many people talk about the drum sound on Pod. What do you think it is that makes it so special or makes it stand apart from other recordings?
I mean, I would say it's just maybe the tuning, the recording, and the playing, because I mean, and it was a nice drum set. It wasn't, a kind that I'd normally use, but it was an 80s like Pearl drum kit, so they were like straightforward, kind of built in the old way drums, and with Steve and the way that I tuned them and played them, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone talks about how Steve records drums and he's known for getting these sounds. Like since that time when you were young and this was maybe your first time working with Steve, or so, um, you've recorded a bunch of drums since then. Is his way so unique? And how do you feel about like the way Steve does it maybe versus the way other people in other studios do it?
I mean, it's it says everything about it now, that it's just like, you can't get that now. Um, so his way is incredible. And the last time I recorded with him was on a song with Kim in Studio A at Electrical. And that was an amazing experience because it was like, um, it was like this sort of transparent thing. Like you might hear like, um, the recording sounds exactly like it actually sounded in the room when you were there. And it was still Steve doing his thing and making his sounds, but that was an aspect of it, and it made me appreciate what he built there. That Studio A was just like this, conduit that you could achieve that with, or could do that with. Yeah, I don't know.
But you also have to think about the way that Pod was mixed in terms of how phenomenal the drums sound on it, even in addition to the actual drums and Britt's playing. It's almost as if Steve was so in love with what had created that he had a vision of, it's almost like he's positioned the drums first,
Yeah.
and then brought the other instruments in a kind of auxiliary kind of a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Britt's like the mainframe.
And it's like,
no
and
way.
it's like, as Kim mentioned before, the rhythm guitar is so quiet and thin, which means there's so much space. The drums can just shine.
Mhm.
They are the architecture
Mm-hmm.
whole thing, and the other elements are kind of arranged around that almost.
And Britt is a great part writer also. Like he's a great, one of the best drummers and great writer of.
In actual fact, I've got something to say
Yeah.
about. I have something to say about that.
Say it.
Because this is what struck me at the time about, and every time I listen to Pod since, he's such an economical player,
Mhm.
and his parts are so measured and thoughtful, and the thing that struck me about his playing was that instead of just throwing a cymbal crash or a roll at the end of every 8 bars, which is pretty standard thing for drummers to do, he deployed a cymbal crash or a drum roll to devastatingly tasteful effect. Like, for example, the two things that really are always in my mind is at the end of Iris, he does just there's just one time where he goes around the drum kit, plays it's like a tom roll around the drum kit, and it's so spectacular. It really is. The whole timing of it, the velocity of it, every hit, it's just amazing. And yet there's just that one time that it happens on the whole record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. It really is. And like with it's like his cymbal crashes are so purposeful. It's not just like, oh, at the end of every 4 bars, I'm going to do a cymbal crash.
Mhm.
It's chosen with such delicacy and finesse that it's just so gratifying to hear the thoughtfulness.
Man, thank you, Josephine. It means a lot.
It's true. I was asking a drummer, how is Britt the gentlest yet heaviest drummer I've ever heard? And it's just like this balance of nonchalant but not, and heavy but not heavy, and it's crazy.
As a matter of fact, I think a lot of drummers listen to Pod and they use that example of how this drum sounded. This is how I think, didn't Grohl like want his kick drum to sound like that? You know, didn't people like that kick drum and they brought it? But what I think is funny is they would bring this to the studio. They might have even gotten that kick drum sound. Who knows? But there's so many like layers and layers of distorted guitars and a big fat SVT bass on top of that.
Yeah.
Even if you had, I bet drummers walk away from the session that they just did and think, why doesn't my kick drum sound like that?
Yeah.
It does, but it's just it wasn't, it didn't have the air, the bubble to breathe. So like Albini had it too.
Right.
And also the thing that Josephine brought up and that you guys are bringing up, we have a couple questions from a friend called Kelly Deal. And she asks all of you, what did you think when you first heard the mixes back from Steve?
I don't remember. I mean, I mean, again, like to repeat myself, I remember feeling like, oh, this is exactly how it should be. You know, after the push pull of, you know, weeks, I just remember thinking it sounded amazing, and I loved that Kim's, you know, voice was so raw and vulnerable and such a focus, you know, rather than having layers on top of that. I loved that. I was kind of blown away, to be honest. Like I was very, very happy with the final of that album and surprised in the best way.
And I don't think we were given, like, it wasn't like we recorded and we heard our mixes later at a late, right? That we left and they were mixed. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the recording and right?
Yeah, just getting the
I think we were there when he mixed it.
Right. Huh?
We were there when he mixed it.
Yeah. The whole, I think the whole
the
2
whole
week
thing happened. It was literally like we finished recording and then he spent, I don't know, a day mixing it. And one of the things I remember was he was so pleased with himself, having the thing set up to play back the mix. And he said, look, no EQ. It was literally just the way he had recorded it. He didn't need to sweeten anything. It was just as he wanted it to be.
Man,
I wonder if he. I have no idea if he even liked the album. You know, I mean, I know he likes us, and you know, he wants good things to happen for us.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm sure nowadays he probably likes it because the way you like, things in the past, But I don't know if he really liked it then or anything, or thought about it at all.
Yeah,
right.
And that's okay. He didn't have to. Can I say one thing that we haven't touched on?
Sure.
Can we talk about Tanya's guitar for a second?
Yes.
Okay. So
Is this
here.
this is a question coming from Kimberly Ann Deal.
It's more of a an I've just with Tanya's guitar playing, people I don't think know. Like, here's a part in the song that, like, Tanya, can you play something here? Maybe play something, think of something to play here. And she would play something that, okay, technically it's shredding. You're actually a shredder.
Yeah.
You're a shredder. Yeah. Now I'm not typically searching for shredders. That's but her, even though she's technically shredding, her guitar, like, I remember on Safari is a great example. Safari, goes to the end, crazy. Okay, take it out, Tanya. Play something here, and she plays.
That's Don't Call Home.
Oh, that Don't Call Home.
Yeah.
Remember, Britt?
And while I was doing that, I was like, Kim's gonna think this is too many notes.
Oh my God. And like, for instance,
I was like, I'm gonna do it. She's gonna say it's too many.
It was so awesome. And then, for instance, with like Iris, like she was talking about, just never letting it go. It's just so exciting. And it's just, that's like, if Britt's the architect, then we're traveling to the sightseeing is we're going down the road of the Britt's drums to go to the museum, and that's Tanya. Oh, look at it, isn't that pretty? Let's buy a ticket to go see Tanya's part. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally, man.
Nobody plays like her.
So I also have something to say about Tanya's playing.
Go on.
Her lead, her parts. The thing that I really like about them is that they unfold with their own momentum, and in a kind of an unhurried, restrained, and epic magnificence.
Yeah, man.
There's something. The thing about it is that they're so. It's like there's a casualness to it. There's a kind of a casual, unself-consciousness to it, in a way that is not how most people play the lead guitar.
I'm glad that's what I'm putting out there, but it feels very self-conscious.
also, what confuses me is that, like, this will be like on the spur of the moment, like, hey, why don't you do something there?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's just like, that's what's so crazy. It's just like, what's that?
Thank you for saying so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, part of that is just Kim's the second person in my life I ever played guitar with. The first one being my sister. And so I feel like I learned so much from all three of you people and Steve, like just that whole process. It was just it was this moment of being like, when I play with a new person, I play differently. Like this, like epiphany that probably should have happened earlier in my life. But like, it was just like, when you work with other people, this was the beginning of sort of feeling like I'm a collaborator. That's what I want to do. And working with you people that was sort of an epiphanal moment for me as a player of just, I want to playing with other people will bring new things and bring, new parts, new words, newness. So
pedals.
Yeah.
What is your pedals? What are your main pedals for, Pod, anyway? What were you doing? I mean, it's Boston. It's like 80s. That's what I knew you. So I know you got a rack. You got a rat pedal, I know.
I had the rat, and I had the rat, and I had a turbo also for that, and then I had delay and amp reverb. Um, Steve took my chorus pedal out of the line.
Yay, Steve!
Physically walked into the room and unplugged it and took it
Oh,
offline.
wow. That's
And again, he was correct.
Oh yeah, that's actually something I was going to say. Quite a few people said something about how the record is timeless. It seems timeless, and I think a lot of that is to do with the production or non-production.
Right.
Because there's so many songs you listen to on the radio, and you're like, you know, it's got that like 80s snare reverb, or
So true, Joe. Yeah.
you know, they're using like a synthesizer because that was the cool new thing to be at that moment. And you're like, I wonder if people listen back and they're like, and they've like, oh, I really wish we'd just used the guitar there, because now it's damn with that time period where there was something so unadulterated and pure about the sounds on this record.
Tanya's trying to sabotage the whole thing with her chorus pedal, turn us into some sort of Purple Rain Prince song, Prince album or something.
How can I pee in this pool? Purity pool.
Yeah, I guess if you're not using EQ, you're not using any gadgets of the time either.
That's amazing that no EQ. That is really amazing. I had forgotten that.
So our final question is also from Kelly Deal. And I want to thank you guys for being here and doing this. I'm realizing through all this how much it means to other people out there. And you for being such weirdos and so talented and brought all of what you bring is the why everyone loves this record so much, and why you guys have done such interesting stuff ever since too. But Kelly says, did you guys know how special this record was as you were making it, or did it occur to you at some point that this is a special record?
Speaking for myself, I felt like it felt special to me throughout, and I feel like being in that house and, you know, just this sort of isolated kind of little bubble, in really sort of I feel like that really added to the specialness of it. I mean, we were literally in pajamas for several days, or you know, what we had slept in, I guess, not pajamas, but just coming up and down stairs and really focused and just in it in this immersive, really wonderful way. So just that felt really special. And then I just feel like, you know, I just feel like everybody played off each other so well, bringing, you know, in terms of strengths and weaknesses, like I just feel like it was a really special experience for me, you know, one of the top of my life.
Yeah, me too.
You guys felt like that all the way through? Anybody have anything overviews or anything they want to say to the people before we close this?
It's hard for me. It's hard to separate the record from the experience of making the record, and the experience of making it really did feel special. Like Tanya said, it was like, you know, I didn't know. Tanya and Kim obviously already knew each other, but I didn't know Kim and Britt and Tanya. So that again is kind of an unusual situation. Usually people in bands know each other when they go in to make a record.
How did you get in the breeders, Josephine?
Because when was it? I think it might have even been, it was 89, I think, 1989, the band that I played in the UK, who were called The Perfect Disaster. We supported the Pixies on a couple of their shows in London. And so I met Kim backstage. And then, I don't know, 6 or 8 months later, I got a call from 4AD saying that Kim and Tanya wanted to make a record, and Kim wanted to know if I'd be interested in playing bass on it, which was very confusing because I was like, but wait, Kim plays bass.
Didn't we meet in Berlin?
Oh my God, we met in Frankfurt. That's right.
We hung out in Frankfurt. That's how we got to be friends.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Didn't you tell me, Joe, that somebody had left Kim and at somewhere you had to give her a ride?
I and my friend Anna went to watch the Pixies play at the Ratskeller, which was a very famous venue just outside of Frankfurt. And then after the show, Kim came and hung out with us. We were sitting next to the railway tracks, and just talking. And then it got to be, like 1 a.m. And my friend Anna was kind of like, we really ought to be going. And I turned to Kim and I said, how are you getting back to your hotel? And she said, you guys are giving me a ride. We had come on public transport. We didn't have a car. So it ended up that we had to call a taxi, which I think Anna paid for, actually, to go all the way back. And Kim was staying in a hotel out by Frankfurt Airport. So we dropped her off at her hotel and then went home.
My God.
Anyway, that actually, yes, you're quite right, Kim. That was the thing that cemented our
going to business with her. What could go wrong?
Man,
Thank you guys for being here so much, and thank you for answering everybody's questions. And if we used your question here, we're going to try to dig up something and send to everybody rather than you being entered to get something, because there weren't that many questions. We'll try to send everybody something.
man, I'd like to say one thing if I could before we go.
Of course, Britt.
I just wanted to say I don't know if I knew how to show it at the time, but being with you guys meant a lot to me, and making music with you was one of the best experiences of my life, and I love you guys.
Thanks, Britt. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Well, everybody loves all 4 of you guys, so thank you for being here and answering the questions.
Love you
for
too,
everybody.
Love you all.
All right.
Love you, Tanya. Love you, Joe. See ya.
Love all 4 of you guys. All right, be good.
Love you
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.